Okay, this should just be us and Mrs. Hudson going to interview Mr. Howard, so we can skip through most of this until we meet up with our boy again. Ah, there he is. Perfect.
Over here!
You took so long coming back that we decided to come and meet you. We did suspect this might happen, admittedly.
Watson! Marple! I don't know how you managed to find us. We quickly bumped into the very two people we were hoping to see.
We owe that one to Marple. She memorized Mr. Howard's new address.
I do apologize for worrying you so. But we managed a nice chat with him. How was your visit?
Yes, well, she's moved out already, I'm afraid. And we don't know her new address.
We did have the good fortune of finding someone who helped her move. They were helping her move things at the exact time we believe the crime took place, 7 o'clock.
And there are eyewitnesses who can attest to that fact. I think we can assume she isn't the culprit.
All in all, we were able to question the 3 current tenants and Mr. Howard. After Hudson spoke, Marple addressed me in a whisper.
I'll not mince words, Emily. Who do you think did it?
The most suspicious person is someone else. Mr. Howard. I believe it may have been Mr. Howard. He appeared anxious when we brought up the subject of Hudson's tableware, and he refused to shake my hand.
Come to think of it, during the case of the Benjamin family, the thief hadn't committed the theft because they were in need. They were someone the family knew and trusted. Their motives were less related to money, and more because they wanted the family to owe them a debt.
So you suppose this case mirrors that one, then? That our thief stole Hudson's plate to put her in their debt?
Watson managed to enter the conversation without Hudson noticing.
I'm thinking so, yes. Did you happen to see a pattern during our questioning? Everyone we met was delighted to see her. They all thought very well of her.
Watson, might I ask you a favor?
What is it?
When we're finished here, will you come with me somewhere? And Marple, can you see Hudson back to Baker Street?
Well, of course, but what for?
I take it you have something in mind, Emily.
I do. Would you?
All right. Leave her to me.
Good girl. With Watson at my side, I returned to Mr. Howard's home.
Oh, I wasn't expecting to see you again so soon.
Hello again, sir. I have something important that I should like to discuss with you. If Hudson means anything to you, and you must know what I mean, I'm hoping you'll listen to me. He fell silent for a moment before slowly opening the door.
Come inside.
It's been some time, Mr. Howard.
It certainly has. Are you here for Hudson sick as well?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry for how sudden this must be for you.
We were shown inside. The room felt eerily still, but we both faced Mr. Howard squarely. You were the one who stole the plate, weren't you, Mr. Howard?
What makes you think that?
We spoke with all of Hudson's current tenants, and 2 of them say they noticed you near the flats a week ago. They also claim that you wanted to speak with her.
I then pointed directly at his right hand. You need that bandage because you hurt your hand when you broke the window of her flat, didn't you? The cut was deeper than you expected. Deep enough to result in blood on the floor. Deep enough that you wanted to take all the bloody pieces... Excuse me. Almost... Saliva just like shot to the back of my throat and I'm like, I'm choking. As I was saying, deep enough that you wanted to take all the bloody pieces of glass away from the scene.
You did your best to clean the blood off the floor, but there was still a little left that you mustn't have noticed. Likely because it was dark. It may take time, but they've recently begun to use fingerprints as evidence in crimes, and there were some in the blood.
That's enough.
Mr. Howard interrupted him. He wore a face of deep loneliness.
If you've worked out that much, I see no reason to hide the truth anymore. I'll tell you everything. Oh.
His sigh was both heavy and depressed. He then began to tell his story, and as he spoke, he seemed to accept his fate.
As I'd mentioned to the ladies earlier, I haven't been in contact with my wife ever since she left me. When she left the flat, she took my daughter with her. I found out that they gave their new address to Hudson, so I wanted her to share that information with me. But she's very dutiful and responsible for someone her age, and no matter how many times I asked, she wouldn't share it with me.
She's been right not to.
That she has. That was what led me to try and put her into my debt. Enough so that she would be willing to tell me what I wanted to know in exchange. All it would take would be for me to be the one who found her most prized Regal Dalton plate. Surely she would help me then. But when the time finally came to do it, I turned out to be more of a coward than I thought. One strike wasn't enough to break the window. I began to panic, thinking someone might hear the sound and come rushing over. I looked around desperately for the plate. As I did, I began to feel terrible for what I was doing, and memories of the past came rushing back.
Of the days when you still lived with your wife and daughter.
That's right. I saw the tableware in her home, and then, quite suddenly, I was filled with a longing for days long gone. It was only then that I noticed my hand had been cut from the broken shards and was bleeding.
He instinctively touched his right hand with his left.
I worked to quickly clean the blood that had dripped onto the floor. Fortunately, that didn't prove difficult. Yet to clear the blood and prints from the shards proved impossible. With time running short, I pocketed each piece I could find, though it does appear I wasn't as thorough with cleaning as I hoped. I found the plate I was looking for and escaped through the window, but I'm not certain I would have felt any worse about it.
Then, after all that, Hudson came to visit you today.
Indeed, I couldn't believe my eyes. All I could think was that either she had worked out what I had done, or God was punishing me for my actions. She was still the same as she ever was, smiling innocently till the moment she left. All I could do was cower in fear of when my crime would come to light.
He shook his head in a way that showed his anguish was too heavy for him to bear.
This is the cut made when I tried to break in. It still bleeds, and it hurts when I put too much pressure on it.
That's why you wouldn't shake my hand earlier.
You really did have it all worked out, didn't you?
I never suspected we would meet again in these circumstances, Mr. Howard.
Bringing Watson with you was a wise choice, young lady.
I suppose it was. I felt a sharp chill run down my spine at the thought of what may have happened had I come alone.
Well, do as you wish. Hand me over to the police if that's what you want to do. Or will you call Holmes?
I'm not going to do either of those things, but instead... The next day, Baker Street was filled with the energy of Hudson's voice.
Oh, thank goodness! Miracles do happen!
Aw, she's so happy. Clutched in Hudson's hands was her beloved plate.
I went to bring in the morning paper, and there it was at the front door, all wrapped in a box with a ribbon, if you can believe it. Some virtuous hero must have found it and returned it to me. I see Lupin's found himself a rival.
That's one possibility. This is wonderful, Hudson. It isn't damaged in any way, is it?
It's in perfect condition, exactly as it was when I lost it, right down to the detail of the paintwork. It is without a doubt my plate. Oh, welcome home, darling. You don't know how I've missed you.
Hudson seemingly let out all her energy in one monstrous heave before hugging and kissing the plate in an over-exaggerated fashion. Tears of happiness filled her eyes. She couldn't have possibly looked any more jubilant.
If the hero who returned this ever comes to visit, I'll have to give them a big thank you, and
some of my best tea, of course.
You really believe in there being a hero of justice?
Come now, Watson. Let her believe. She's happy, and that's all that matters.
Are you alright with this, Emily? It's only because you decided to revisit Mr. Howard that she got it back.
Whilst Watson was pouting, the door opened, and a familiar voice could be heard from the other side of it.
What in God's name is going on here? I'd hoped to return from my trip to peace and quiet, not this kerfuffle.
Hello, Holmes. Look, Holmes! Someone found my Regal Dalton plate for me!
I was not aware you lost it, but I'm not surprised. Losing things is what happens when you don't tidy up properly.
I'll have you know that I didn't lose it. It was stolen from me. Then Emily tried as hard as she could to find it for me. Oh, and big news, I'm her assistant now. I swear to study especially hard to be a first-rate detective and become an even better assistant than Watson.
You've become Miss Whiteley's assistant and intend to surpass Watson. Huh. What a very droll concept. She solves cases entirely by ear, reaching an answer by luck more than logic. She doesn't require an assistant. Having one would be a complete waste.
How could you say that?
Surpassing Watson as an assistant in itself is, well, that isn't particularly challenging. Excuse me? Goals should be set high. To set them low to increase your chances of success is to mollycoddle yourself. I see someone's got off the wrong side of the bed today. Say what you want, but you can hardly call yourself my assistant to begin with. You didn't even accompany me on my investigation. Well... We'll leave that matter aside for the present. More importantly...
You still haven't finished?
Miss Hudson, I regret to inform you that plate of yours is not a... Ah! Holmes, stop!
Don't say any more!
I see no reason to shy from the truth. Listen well. That plate you so adore is not a genuine Regal Dalton plate. It is a counterfeit. Oh, boy.
What? Have you gone mad?
Look at the mark on the reverse side. The lion's tail is split into two, correct?
That's right! That's what proves it's genuine! Hudson showed off the mark to Holmes.
Regal Dalton only has one tail. The plate you lost was false, as is the one you've retrieved.
That can't be true! It can't be!
Still, there is good news. The cup and saucer you have at least are genuine. Look at the mark on the back of those.
But my prize plate! The one I boasted about so much! Did you know about this, Emily? What about you, Watson? Seeing Hudson stunned by the revelation was enough to make me feel a twinge of guilt. No, of course not. I've learned something new today. Right, Watson?
Absolutely! I had no idea. But who could when it's as pretty as an original?
You couldn't be worse at lying if you tried. You're all awful.
Whatever this case entailed, know that it was a complete farce.
An enjoyable farce it is, then. Hudson has her plate back, and you've procured an adorable assistant. All's well that ends well.
You're so calm about all of this.
Be that as it may, I'm not letting her take my spot by your side.
That's an uncharacteristically childish statement from you.
I'm not behaving as childishly as you, thankfully. Taking out your frustration on a young girl is absolutely juvenile.
Juvenile? What a grave misunderstanding we have on our hands. What I said earlier was for her own good. Humans need to experience setbacks early in their life, or they will be unable to grow. Why, I'm of the belief that as soon as a child hits 3 years of age, they should be treated as an adult. If they aren't, they won't be anything more than a frail adult who loses heart at any old bit of claptrap.
His words were short and blunt and his expression sour. Marple, in comparison, looked much more weary.
I see your investigation in Edinburgh didn't go very well. And now you return and find yourself feeling left out, which is what prompted this. How right am I?
Congratulations on conjuring up a theory, Miss Marple. Now, don't you think it's time you were leaving?
I shall leave when Emily leaves.
Out in the hallway, I was sulking. She learnt the truth, but at least we found it and solved the case. I'm glad of that. If only Holmes would show some mercy. One would think he could be a bit gentler with someone younger. Okay, I think this is just us saying goodbye to Hudson. Yep. Very touching goodbye. Alright, and hello, Pendleton. Time to write in our diary again. Perhaps I should write in my diary. Choosing what to write about today was easy, at least. I had to write about my new assistant, Hudson. It's a good thing you don't have to search, then. From now on, I'm your assistant. She works so very hard. How could anyone say otherwise when she looks after a block of flats at her age? She's quickly become like family to me, and given how level-headed she is, I have plenty I could stand to learn from her. With her as my assistant, I shall need to step up my efforts to become a fine detective. Aw, how sweet. I'm feeling rather tired. Perhaps I should go to sleep. But Pendleton is nowhere to be found. I'm so sorry, Alicia. I could have sworn that you were going to, kill me. And I missed what the title of this episode is going to be, unfortunately. This is the, what's it called? Mr. Mackenzie episode. Oh my. The Mirror! 7 years bad luck. Well, I think we can start from here quite safely. Actually, if I save, I can find out what the episode is called. Episode? The Missing Man. There we go. Now that's thinking. And while I'm at it, we're doing good. Alright. I was left speechless at the sight. From end to end, wall to wall, desk to desk, everything was liberally covered in chalk scribblings. Some were made up of English letters, whilst others included seemingly random marks and symbols. Could this be a code of sorts?
What was the culprit thinking by writing over everything like this? Even for a prank, this is going too far. You don't think it was the work of someone with a grudge against this class, do you? Writing across the board is one thing, perhaps, but the desks... What the deuce is going on here? Whoa! Now this is a sight. The whole room's covered in chalk.
Holmes and Watson were as wide-eyed as everyone else who entered. Next to arrive were Akachi and Kobayashi.
According to one of the guards on patrol, it happened late in the night at the weekend. He claims he spotted a suspicious... Let's try that again. He claims he spotted a suspicious man rushing out of the classroom, and upon further investigation found the room in this state.
His first instinct was that it might have been part of a burglary of sorts, so he reported it to Scotland Yard and had them examine the academy from top to bottom. But no one was able to find anything else out of the ordinary or gone. This room is the only change.
By the sound of it, they had gone to question the school's guard immediately after seeing the classroom.
I assume Scotland Yard left the room as it was to preserve the crime scene. How thoughtful of them.
I don't suspect our criminal selected chalk on a whim, either. There's very little excess chalk powder, and the writing on the desk is finely printed, indicating great familiarity.
We're meant to catch criminals, Akachi, not praise them.
Praising them was not my intention in the least. Still, I think we're dealing with a very methodical individual. Despite a sense of urgency in each stroke, the letters are written in orderly lines and are clearly legible.
I can read textbooks well enough, but my English reading and writing skills aren't good enough to handle scribble like this yet.
The way the letters curl at the end is quite distinctive, thankfully. I feel like I've seen handwriting exactly like this somewhere before. Where was it? Mr. Mackenzie.
Mr. Mackenzie.
Holmes and Marple, speaking with such snappy unison, spelt the writing on the wall better than any chalk could. I too couldn't help but feel I'd seen this handwriting.
All right, class. In our previous lesson, we covered the cipher used by Mary, Queen of Scots, and her co-conspirator Babington when they exchanged letters. And that's why today, we're to cover a cipher used in a completely different country, France. The one used by Queen Marie Antoinette, to be precise. Take a gander at the blackboard. As you can see, the most distinctive feature of this cipher is the ampersands are used frequently in addition to letters.
I think they might be right. He does have a tendency of curling his letters at their ends when writing on the blackboard.
It takes a keen eye to be conscious of unique quirks in your teacher's handwriting. Such a thing occurs as much in English as it does in Japanese, apparently.
Akachi wasted no time in jotting down notes.
Where is Mr. Mackenzie? He should be here by now, shouldn't he?
What an obvious thing we missed. As he said that, the school bell chimed to indicate the start of lessons. The classroom door creaked and we all turned, expecting to see him at the doorway.
Mr. Mackenzie's not in, so we're to work on our own for first period.
Lupin was standing there, typical meek posture and all instead.
He's not in.
How peculiar. He's never been absent for a single day since I've been in attendance. The mysteries are piling atop one another by the second.
Wait a second. Is something wrong, Watson? Not wrong, but the other day, he mentioned something about not having very long left.
What? He said that?
He did. He looked even gloomier than usual when he said it.
What if he's been targeted by someone?
And leave a veritable novel across the walls for us to decipher? It's a bit dramatic, don't you think?
Whatever's happening must be very serious for him to resort to something so drastic.
Did you hear anything, Lupin?
I do know he never contacted the school to say he was going to be absent. You don't think it's bad, do you?
Calm down, Lupin.
Holmes's eyes were focused on the cryptic writing.
Mr. Mackenzie must have been trying to tell us something by leaving these messages. That said, there is a possibility we are dealing with a serious case here. We'd best proceed with caution.
You're right. The normally fun, pleasant atmosphere of the classroom had devolved into one of great tension.
But leaving things as they are does us no favors, unless we want to be covered head to toe in chalk by the time we go home. I propose copying down all the messages and wiping everything down.
I've taken care of half of that already. Here's a copy for you, Holmes.
Watson proudly shared a piece of paper with the coded messages copied on.
Very impressive, Watson. I'm glad I can count on you for simple tasks like this, at least. No one makes a compliment sound like an insult quite like you, my dear friend.
I've made a copy for myself as well.
As have I. And here's an additional one for your reference, Kobayashi.
Much obliged.
I'm finished with mine.
What about you, Jack? Are you finished? The class's gaze centered on Jack, who was sitting at his desk.
Don't care. Huh. I see you made your own copy. The ink on your fingers, despite first period having only just begun, tells me everything I need to know. Very quick work. Sod off, Holmes.
Jack turned away from all of us. All right, then. Can anyone here decode this?
Not me, I'm afraid.
I haven't a clue, but we might find something if we go to the library.
That's a fine idea. Shall we get going, then? Sitting here pondering isn't going to get us anywhere.
All right. Good luck. We'll wait here, so if you find anything out, come and let us know. Of course. Best of luck on your end as well.
We may well have stumbled into a major case here, and I couldn't be more thrilled about it. Let's solve this!
Kobayashi, you do realize the only reason we're enrolled here is due to Mr. Mackenzie's generosity? I find it highly improper that you should behave this way when his life may be on the line. Cease at once.
I know.
At that point, Jack caught my eye. He was showing no obvious interest in accompanying us. It's possible he knows something we don't. He may feign disinterest in the cipher, but he did jot them down. Unsurprisingly, he was half-lidded and watching nothing in particular. Shall I engage him? Not this time. I stared wordlessly at Jack, observing his usual routine. I always see him looking out the window.
Something funny on me face. Can you understand any of these messages, Jack?
They've got nothing to do with me. Doesn't matter to me if our teacher misses work, or if I can't get me head around all this rubbish.
Are you the type of man who could comfortably ignore a letter that was addressed to you?
That a problem? It's not like I get a lot of them.
That's all the more reason you should try and at least decode the one that was on your desk.
Jack sent Holmes a frosty glare. Holmes, meanwhile, stood and stared in silence.
Bah, I said it already. It's not me business. If you want to decode him, get on with it.
The matter settled as much as any matter with Jack could be, he sat back down. I thought it a shame we couldn't get him to help us. As we were about to leave the classroom, someone called out to me.
Miss Whiteley.
Akachi approached.
Yes.
I do apologize for this, but I think it would be for the best if Kobayashi and I were to split off from the rest of the group.
What? Why?
I would appreciate it if you didn't look quite so sad. I'm not suggesting that the two of us don't want to work alongside you. Rather, if Mr. Mackenzie truly is in danger, then it's possible it will be too late by the time we decode these messages. The two of us intend to try pursuing the case from other angles, in hopes that we can discover anything else that may help us.
So we'll leave the deciphering to your side. Best of luck.
That sounds less like helping and more like dropping the hard work on us. Don't jump to conclusions, Watson. What they're saying makes perfect sense. There are times when it pays to look at a case from a completely different angle.
What shall I do? I'll let them go this time.
All right. Take care. We'll do the best we can here.
Thank you. We shall pray Mr. Mackenzie is safe.
We'll see you later, and good luck!
Akachi and Kobayashi hurried out of the classroom.
If he's already been caught in something, then we can't afford mistakes when decoding the cipher.
True. That we can't.
Jack? I was quite surprised upon Jack's interjection. He insisted this had nothing to do with him, but he was curious about it after all. He must be worried for Mr. Mackenzie also. Thank God he stepped up.
What's that face for?
Oh, don't mind me.
There's a chance the messages were written to mix us up. A ploy to distract us from something more sinister in the works. Could be, at any rate.
Your logic is sound, but diversion or not, this is clearly Mr. Mackenzie's handwriting.
I should agree. The way his letters curl at the end is the sign. Can't notice such things when using a pen, but it's plain as day here.
Jack sought the notes he'd written on his desk for reference.
Even if some bloke mimicked the handwriting, it wouldn't be easy to do the sign for habits that are only seen when he jots things down in chalk. Though could be he was coerced.
Unintentionally, my eyes wandered over to Jack's notes, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Your notes are impeccable, Jack. Despite my efforts to hold it in, I squeaked out a tiny gasp. You even copied the teacher's handwriting. What a gift you have.
You thick? I never said you couldn't look.
I take it this part neatly written in cursive is mine. Well done.
It's from when he asked you to write on the board. You'd be polite to stop staring any time.
As for this childish scrawl here, this must be Watson's. Very accurate indeed. That's mine? It can't be that terrible. Besides, I'm always the one jotting down clues during our cases. I need to prioritize speed over all else. I do plan on getting them together and putting my memoirs in a book, but until then, I don't see the need to make it pretty.
Save yourself the effort and purchase a typewriter. You can't write worth a damn.
You don't have to mind it that much. Right. Isn't it about time we shifted focus towards decoding those messages?
With the mood considerably more cheery than before, we made our way to the library.